Good morning, Mom. I am the fourth reporter. So my topic is about gender-sensitive language and political correctness, and also the varieties and register of spoken and writing languages. So for this morning, I am the one to discuss it all now because I don't know where they are my members. He didn't know participated already, so I will discuss it all to you now. So the first is we discussed about gender sensitive language and political correctness. So, ang political correctness, unlike identity politics, cannot be taken seriously as an expression of liberal leftist ideals. And the former terms owes too much of its meaning to the anti-leftist invective that has sustained it, and a vice versa for entire generation. So the only practical use of political correctness that remains of the left is to identify those who have little respect for identity politics, that they won't even call it by proper name. So for example, guys, the gender inclusive language. So instead of we call policeman or policewoman, we see it already in a police officer. And the second, sales or saleswoman, we call it also salesperson as a respect by the gender or by the men and woman. And the mailman or male woman, we call it male career. So and sa fireman and sa firewoman, we call it also we see it also a firefighter. So, and the waiter in the waitress is we see it also a server. So this is the example of a gender inclusive language. And the gender mainstream tool, gender awareness raising. And awareness raising is a process which to facilitate the exchange of ideas, improve mutual understanding, and develop competences and skills necessary for social change. What is gender awareness raising? So, the gender awareness raising aims to increasing general sensitivity, understanding, and knowledge about gender. So, in equality. So, the awareness raising is a process which helps to facilitate the exchange of ideas and improve mutual understanding and develop competences and skills necessary for societal and change. Is gender awareness raising means providing reliable and accessible information to build a better understanding of gender equality. So, as a core value of a democratic societies, as a gender mainstreaming method, gender awareness raising is a crucial for integrating a gender of perspective into policies. So this is also that we need to aware na mahibaw na we know that already how to use in proper the discrimination of gender sensitive. So this is also the example of some example of sa gender. So the first, folks or everybody. So instead of guys or ladies, we call it gentleman for being a respect sa men or sa women. So when we see a gentleman, we mean it already instead of guys or ladies. So and another example, humankind instead of mankind, and people instead of men or men, man or men. So member of Congress instead of congressman. So council person instead of councilman, councilwoman. So first year student instead of freshmen. So this is also the example of a uh, gender sensitive. So the gender sensitive language is one of the gender responsive policies that contributes to reducing discrimination in language and equal. So visibility of equality language is, among other things, the paradigm of ideological, social, economic, legal, and political relations prevailing in society. So next, guys, I will discuss it now about varieties and the register spoken and writing language. So the spoken language, the actual use of speech, sound, or related utterances that convey meaning to share thoughts or information. And then the first is language. So the method of human communication, either spoken or written, so consisting of the use of a word in structured in a conventional way. So the method of human is communication is language. So this is the example of the varieties language. So spoken language, as a language produced by articulate sounds as opposed to a written language. So when we call it spoken language. So next, written language is the representation of spoken or gestural language by means of a writing system. So next is the varieties of language. In a sociolinguistic, language variety, also called lect, is a general term for any distinctive form of a language or a linguistic expression. This is also the varieties of language. Then the standard of language or standards variety may be defined either as the language variety used by a population for a public purposes as a variety that has undergone standardization. So when we call it standard language, so this is also we called about used by a population for a public purpose. So this is a standard language or standard variety. Then the example is English, French, Portuguese, German, Korean, and Croatian, Spanish, Swedish, Armenian, and Chinese. So this is the also the this is the example of standard language or standard variety. This one, guys. So this is the example of this one: French, Portuguese, German, Korean, Serbo-Croatian, Spanish, Swedish, Armenian, and Chinese. So next is about dialects. So dialect is a regional or a social variety of a language. So distinguished by a pronunciation, grammar, or vocabulary. So ang dialect nag-ano siya about sa regional and also the language, sa pronunciation ug sa grammar, and also sa the vocabulary. So the types of dialects as a regional dialect. The first is regional dialect, a variety spoken in a particular region. And the second is ethnolect, a lect spoken by a specific ethnic group. For example, a Bonix, the vernacular spoken by some African Americans. So this is the ethnolect, the meaning of ethnolect. And next is types of lects also. This is the third Sociolect, also known as a social dialect, a variety of language used by a socio-economic class, a profession, in an age group, or any other social group. And that also the fourth is idiolects. Idiolect. So the meaning is the language or languages spoken by each individual. So meaning this is our national language. For example, if you are multilingual and can speak in different registers and styles, your idiolect comprises of several languages, each with multiple registers and styles. So this is also the type of lex. So the sa register describe the various style of language available for writing or speaking. So we deciding which languages register is appropriate to use depends on the audience, topic, and the situation. Okay, so the language register is classified as a neutral language register. Is not necessarily formal or informal, is used to deliver facts. So example, reviews, articles, some letters, some or technical writing. So this is the example about the language register. Then sa in about dialect, there are 5 language register. The 5 language registers. The first is frozen, the second formal, the third is consultative, the fourth is casual, and the intimate. So the first is frozen. The frozen register is language that rarely or never changes. And the second is example of frozen registers. So, sa pledge, of sa allegiance, words to a song, then poetry, prayer, laws. This is the example sa frozen, sa first page what about sa frozen register language that really never changes. Really never changes. Dili siya pwede dili siya pwede mausab. So just like pledge or words to a song, poetry, prayer, laws, mga balaod, no? So this is a frozen, the example of frozen. Sa formal, there are one-way communication, complete sentences focus on form. So this is the formal. Then the example of formal is a presentations, then academic paper, essays in school, use at work, school and business, interviews. This is a formal, the example of formal. Then the third, consultative register. So this is the register used when consulting an expert such as a doctor, or the language used is more precise. No past experience with that person. So okay, so this is the third consultative register. So the example of consultative register, the strangers who interact, adults at work, teachers with students, talking with lawyer or doctor. Okay, so this is the example of register, consultative register. So the fourth is casual. So the type of the register is conversational in tone. It is the language used among and between friends. So the example is lang, or kana bitong when kapag pagsanay na nimo siya ang usa ka language, lahi ang imong pagka-pronounce kung naa kay usa ka language nga mahibaw-an nga iistorya. So personal letter to a friend, talking with friends. So this is the example of casual. So 5, intimate. The language used by the lovers. It is also the language used in a sexual harassment. This is the most intimate form of language. So the example, talking to your lover, couples, and or twins. So thank you. That's all, and good luck.